The San Antonio Spurs this year are going to be one of the most interesting teams in basketball. This is a team that has all of the tools. They have the number one overall pick in Victor Wembenyama, one of the greatest prospects we've ever seen. They've got tons of defensive upside, which we will talk about later in today's video. They got young guys headlined by Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and they have one of the greatest coaches of all time who just got extended 5 more years. Can they put all the pieces together? We will see. And they do have a lot of pieces. So before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, leave me a comment down below, and hit the subscribe button. About 95% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so go ahead and change that. Now let's go ahead and get started looking at the franchise-changing, franchise-altering sweepstakes that the Spurs just won. And they get Victor Wembenyama, number one overall. Now, he didn't come out looking great in the Summer League, but he rebounded in Game 2. He was balling. Got Coach Popovich there working with him. So the Spurs are going to be really good. And a thing that is going to really help them is their defensive upside. Not only do they have, like I said, one of the best coaches in NBA history, but they have Jeremy Sohan. They have Victor Wembenyama, who we've talked about, 7'5". It's going to be extremely tough to get a shot off over him. Sohan can guard basically the 1 through 5. He can do it all. And then Devin Vassell is one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA that just doesn't get talked about enough. At 6'6", 6'7", with a really, really good wingspan. He's really tough to score on as well. So this Spurs team, lots of defense. It's going to be tough to score on them. Now, it is the NBA, so they're probably going to get scored on a lot. But this is a team that had like the number 30 defensive rating last year. I'd expect that to be top 15 this year. They also have Trey Jones, a guy who, although slightly undersized, is a good defender from the point guard position. Great point of attack defender. Like I said, slightly undersized, but I think he's going to be the starting point guard for them this year. He averaged 13 points a game, 6.5 assists, and 3.5 rebounds. Good floor general. His brother Tyus does it at an elite level as well. I think he'd probably be better suited as a backup point guard versus a franchise point guard, but 46% from the field, pretty solid there. 1.6 steals as well, and then 29% from 3. They'll have to get that up. Not the best three-point shooter. Really hasn't been ever since his days at Duke with Zion and RJ. 29 minutes a game, though, last year. Only 1.4 turnovers to 6.6 assists per game. Very solid assist-to-turnover ratio right there. And then, you look at their generational prospect, the main highlight of the Spurs offseason, Victor Wembenyama. The greatest prospect of all time? Question mark. Maybe. He's got probably the highest ceiling at 7'5" and can do everything a guard can do. 21 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks. Now the only thing holding him back is injury and his weight. His weight is probably a big time concern. Now those numbers were put up in the best French league, so that's not really nothing to sneeze at there. In 3 years, will he be the best offensive and defensive player in the NBA? I feel like there's a legit argument you can make. We could see Skip Bayless yelling about that on TV here shortly, that he could be the best offensive and defensive player in the league. Now, let's take a look at his surrounding core. It starts off with Keldon Johnson, who people are kind of writing off, but the man averaged 22, 5, and 3 last year. Those are very, very solid numbers for a guy in Keldon Johnson who, while he's undersized, played some power forward, played some small forward, played some 2 guard, 45% from the field, 33% from 3 in 33 minutes a game. So he's a guy that, like I said, very versatile, can play basically every spot on the floor. 23 years old, so he's a guy to continue to grow and develop. And then you got Devin Vassell here, 18.5 points, 3.9 rebounds, 3.6 assists per game. He's probably going to be the best player on the Spurs next year, in my opinion. If he has the year that I think he's going to have, 44% from the field, 39% from 3, 1.1 steals. There's not really a hole in his game. He does everything. He can shoot it. He can score from all 3 levels. He can defend. He can knock down the 3 ball, obviously. Like we said, great defender. He can facilitate a little bit. 4 assists per game, not too bad. But, yeah, I'm really liking Devin Vassell next year. And then a sleeper for me next year for the Spurs is going to be Malachi Branham. They actually have a few. Branham, Mamu, Julian Champagnie even. But Branham averaged 10.2 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, 2.9 assists. Now, I was very, very high on him coming out of Ohio State. 44% from the field, 30% from 3 as a rookie. Not the greatest. 23 minutes a game, so he wasn't too efficient. But, you can fix that for sure. especially because he was extremely efficient in college, one of the most efficient in the class. And then you look at the per 36s, like I mentioned, he only played 23 minutes a game, so his per 36 numbers are very good, around 18 points a game there. So Branham, with increased usage this year, should be having a big-time year. Now, a couple of guys that are on trade candidate watch, just because, they're expiring contracts, so they're guys that you could look to deal. Although McDermott's an expiring deal. Devontae is not. Devontae, if either of these guys get traded, it'll be Devontae. Although right now it's either him or Campaign to be the backup point guard. But Doug McDermott, I think, is going to stay. Devontae, though, 3 years, $36 million left on that contract, I believe. Kind of rough. Maybe it's 2 years, 24. If it's just 224, then they might keep him around because they have unlimited cap room, essentially. They really didn't spend any this offseason. Close to $50 million in cap. We thought we were going to see him do something with maybe a Zach LaVine. John Collins, of course, gets traded to the Jazz. But with Pop aging, you'd think that they were trying to win now. A big move could be coming. And then again, Pop just signed that long-term extension, so maybe they don't make a big move out of nowhere and just play the long game. They have lots of assets over the next 5 years as well. They have loaded up on picks very quietly, but they have a ton of picks. They'll have Charlotte's lottery-protected pick next year, as well as their own and a couple of seconds. And then in 2025, they'll have their own, Atlanta and Chicago. 2026, they'll have their own in Atlanta's, and then Atlanta's in their own in 2027 as well. But that Chicago pick in 2025 could be very good, depending on how good the Hornets are next year. That pick could be in San Antonio. I'm not sure. I'm hoping the Hornets make the playoffs for once as a Hornets fan, but probably won't happen, so I'm not going to get my hopes too high. But yeah, lots of picks, lots of cap space to play around with. Let's take a look at the lineups for next year. At least these are my projected lineups for them. Of course, Trey Jones at the starting point guard spot. Honestly, it's probably going to be Zach Collins at the 5 because I don't know if Wemby is physically ready. Maybe they play Sohan at the 5 and let Wemby play the 4. But it's probably going to be Zach Collins at the 5, Wemby at the 4. These are just, in my opinion, the 5 best players on the Spurs, although Zach Collins was very good after they traded Podol last season. We'll see. I mean, if I was throwing guys out there in 2K or something, this is what it would be. But, of course, not 2K. Greg Popovich has a few more NBA wins than I do as a head coach. So we'll see what he does. But like I said, in my opinion, these are the best 5 players on the Spurs. Let me know your thoughts on the lineups down in the comments below. Now, taking a look at the reserves. Like I said, they just traded for Campaign from the Suns, giving the Suns some cap relief. He will be a solid backup point guard. I mean, we've seen him be a very solid backup point guard in Phoenix for a while now. If they want to go a different direction than Devontae Graham. And then again, as we talked about earlier, Zach Collins very well could be a starter. He was very, very solid for them last year after they traded Jakob Poeltl at the deadline. And then Mamu at the 4 there. I think Zach Collins and Mamu as a backup forward center duo would be very, very solid. Like I said, we got Malachi Branham there at the backup 3. Doug McDermott coming off the bench as well. So a solid bench group. I mean, this is a Spurs team that, if Popovich coaches them up, they got all the tools in the world. They also got guys like Julian Champagnie, Blake Wesley, a couple of really, really good athletes there. I'm very excited to see what happens with this Spurs team this year. Definitely a team that, like I said, I think could make a bit of a run if things turn out correctly. Their fortunes literally changed overnight with them jumping up in the lottery to get Victor Wembenyama. I really thought my Hornets were going to get him there for a little bit. But he goes to the Spurs. Hornets end up with Brandon Miller. So, great consolation prize. But back to the Spurs. I think they're going to be good this year. Y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But like I said, this is a sneaky team. They could make a run. They got all the tools in the world. With that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like button, leave me a comment down below, and hit the subscribe button. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video.